And hi everyone, welcome to Life Edge, because life just doesn't have to be mediocre. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Dr. Susan Nash. Hi Susan, how are you?
Hi, great. So glad to be here.
Yeah, hey, 2 weeks in a row, we both made it. This is good.
Yeah, wonderful.
So we have a very interesting guest today, somebody who's related to one of our other co-hosts on RelateCasts, and that's his brother, Jeff Holbrook, who does the show with Jeff Blanchard, two Jeffs, different spelling, called The Weekly Catch-Up. And they're on, I think, Wednesday nights, but I'm not 100% sure, or Wednesday mornings. It's some ungodly hour that they chose between the two of them. But he's on. Paul Holbrook. He is a voiceover guy. He's done over 44 audiobooks, which is pretty cool, Audible-type books. And he just wrote a book in their own words, all about the California fires we had last year, which were not good, not fun. So it should be fun. Let's get the show going. And we are back, and joining us in that middle position of power, it's Paul Holbrook. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing great, and we're so glad you could make it. And, it's interesting. Doing audiobooks is actually quite a bit of work, isn't it?
Yes, it can be, pretty physical because, most of the time people think that you are just sitting in a box talking to yourself, which is probably true. But it can be physical. You know how it is with the, when you're doing your voice, your voice stuff with the podcast and all that. I mean, if you do it for a long time, I mean, it can, it's kind of physical. It
is. And when you lose your voice, it's not fun. There goes your career for a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get into the audiobook business?
Well, I was retiring from the post office. I was a supervisor for 29 years, and I was retiring from there. And I was looking for something I could do after I retired to make some money. And so my wife was looking through a magazine article, and it had listed several things that you could do to make money afterwards. And the only two that caught my eye, was doing voiceovers and reading audiobooks, and the other one was diving for pearls in shark-infested water. And I thought, well, that's probably not the
really
one I'll pick. So it made it a pretty easy pick on what to try.
Yep. Sharks, obviously, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, I will say, anyway, I don't leave this. After my experiences with doing audiobooks, I think I would prefer diving and swimming with sharks because it's the same thing.
Well, Susan read a book for LibriVox, and she was surprised at the negative comments and how nasty people can get, not realizing at LibriVox people do it for free. They do it as a service. They have fun and everything, and boy, they get nasty sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so I love downloading LibriVox, and I was listening to a lot of Victorians and industrial novels and sensation novels. It's like, well, I'm feeling guilty. Like, I'm exploiting this and taking advantage, and I really need to, give back. Because I hadn't been contributing any money, but I thought, okay, I can just contribute some stuff. So I volunteered to read chapters, first of all, with Wilkie Collins, and then George Gissing, who does social realism in the 19th century.
Wow!
And then I did a full book with Mary Elizabeth Braddon, just a full book. And the full book, I took it like a year break because to stop the hemorrhaging from, or at least the sting from the. But so I got just eviscerated for actually having life in my voice, and I guess they just want you to do just monotone and all that. And then I will say that I did try my hand at some different language accents.
Yeah.
I think I had a little too much fun with it. But there were some people who said they liked it, but then some people were as mean as snakes.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
it's
they
interesting,
can be.
Susan. We did a video once for a very large county in Southern California. I won't name who they are, but L.A. But anyway, in their new employee orientation, we actually put in some accents because we were doing like Mexican accents and some other accents. Oh boy, they did not like it. All taken out, no accents whatsoever. I said, but the reality is we have a lot of accents out here, lots, tons. Nope, no accents were allowed. So we took them out and redid some of the VO because it was funny. That really got them upset, the accents.
But how are you supposed to okay, Georgie writes in vernacular. You know, he writes with German stuff, and then Mark Twain writes in vernacular. And are you supposed to just do, like I have an Oklahoma accent, am I supposed to just do an Oklahoma accent for all of those different...
Well, voices, yeah, because what happened with me was that I did, I think it was 6 books for a very large author in England named Conrad Jones, who did books for like on terrorists and things like that. And you know, a lot of the vernacular, as you're saying, I thought, now what? You know, and I had to really think about it and say, okay, I think I know what they're saying now. But as you can hear I'm a native West Virginian. You can hear the West Virginia accent, you know. And when I tried to do, there's a couple of them. There's a Book of Abominations. Did that one, How to Write a Book in 90 Days. That one was pretty straightforward. But when you get down to Slow Burn, then there was all kinds of accents and you know, trying to do Liverpool and trying to do London. And I figured out
and genders, different genders. Yeah. Then you do female voices, like do a female voice. Do a female.
Oh man, I know. You just kind of have to do it like this, you know.
I like it.
And a lot of times, if you listen to the audiobooks, you know, you'll hear "Now I'm going to shoot him," and she goes, "No, don't shoot him, don't shoot him, please don't." And they just change the voice a little bit, but that's enough to get the imagination going. That's what I love about audiobooks. You don't have to go all the way, but...
I went all the way.
You go all the way.
That's right. I learned not to.
That's funny.
Well, my last version, I was like, I did it, and it was like, you know, the entire book and stuff, and I tried to maintain kind of really subtle changes, and I was really monotonish, and I got some... A++ for effort, that type of patronizing.
Okay.
You know, at least it wasn't. She's horrible, and she should just like be barred from existing.
So, Paul, when you have to, well, I noticed one thing when you said you were in the post office. You and your brother both worked in the post office.
Yes, same place actually.
That same place. Oh, how interesting!
Yeah.
That's a coincidence. And you both like microphones, and both of you like microphones and audio. That's funny. You guys have a lot in common.
Yeah, we grew up singing together and
that's cool.
And playing instruments and that type of stuff. Yes.
Yeah, your brother's a good guy, and you know, it's sort of fun hearing that because obviously the post office paid the bills, but though there were some secret passions in there that finally came out, and so you looked at the ad, you thought about it. Did you have to do anything at all? Did you do any training? Did you do any voice training, or did you just go at it? You just went with it.
Well, there's. Am I allowed to name the company?
Sure.
I'm not sure if I am. Okay. I went with ACX, .com, which is the arm, of Audible, and they have a lot of training on there.
Oh,
and that's
good.
basically the kind of training that I did. And of course, they give you, all the specs that you have to do on how to. How many decibels and all of that type of thing,
right.
But no, it wasn't.
Audacity?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Do you use Audacity?
Do I use Audacity?
Or you?
No, I have a thing called Mixcraft, which is it's overkill for what I need. I mean, because it has all kinds of music and I can do unlimited tracks and all that stuff. But it's nice because you can, make things louder in certain spots or softer or whatever, which makes it nice. So.
Is that Mac-based or Windows or both?
I've got it on Windows. I'm not sure if it'll work on Mac or not.
And it's called Mixcraft?
Mixcraft, yes.
Mixcraft. I always
But
thought the two was like
you can
that.
do that with You can do that with Audacity too, and Audacity is free. It's open source. It's a little clunky, but it does all those things. You just have to
I have heard a lot of
code.
people that use that. Use the Audacity, but since I was used to this one.
It's funny. I've done a lot of teaching on recording audio essentials for e-learning and for other things. And invariably, I'm always talking about paid tools, and somebody goes, "What about Audacity?" And I said, I really don't know Audacity. I've played with it here and there, but I really prefer the paid tools only because I know they have support. They tend to get more features and stuff. Audacity works pretty well. It actually runs very well, but it's not been one of my favorites. I prefer Audition from Adobe, which is the one I use for the most part. We used to use SoundForge, but it was limited on the number of tracks. They had channels, but not tracks, and that works, but it's a little bit different. But it's interesting. So you're using the Mixcraft, and you went through the Audible training, which again is great. I didn't realize they did that. So
there's a lot there.
What was the first book you read?
I read a book. To get into it, I wanted to do something small, so I did a book called All About Lions. It's a children's book, and it was only 1,000 words. And I thought, okay, because that way I can learn how to get the mix right and make sure I don't take on a 140,000 word novel, not knowing what I was doing.
Yeah. Was it easy? Did it work out?
Yeah, it did. It's still for sale.
That's cool.
So do they pay you an amount, a flat rate, or do you get a certain amount and then get commissions later?
The person who is the author gets to decide if he wants to pay a flat rate or if it's shared royalty.
Interesting.
And they pay the audiobook narrator for 7 years on a shared one.
Oh, so that's how they do it.
That's how they do it, yeah.
Oh, because I know, like, if you're doing translations, like if you do translations, they usually charge by the word. And it's like 10, 15 cents a word on a translation. But audiobooks are different. I know some people who don't like recording audiobooks. These are usually VO people who like to do voiceover, especially in commercials, so they feel they can get more in the short run, and they don't like to do the long run. But the guys I've met in the past who do audiobooks, they don't mind. They really enjoy it. And like you've done 44, so you've gotten a reputation for being good at it, because otherwise nobody calls you. So you're doing really well at the audiobooks. How long did it take before you felt comfortable doing the audiobooks and you say, just give me whatever you got, I can do it?
Well, it's with them, you have to audition for each one.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, you do. Except with like Conrad Jones, once I did a couple for him, then he started offering to me without the audition. But yeah, you audition for each one, and that's kind of the cool thing, because you can audition for anything, and then the author is the one who picks who they want. I just landed one with University Press, which was probably one of the best that I've done. It's 140,000 word one, and it's on the Civil War. Oh, and so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So
you can do a Southern accent there.
No, I have a question.
Yeah, I think I could probably handle that.
That's good. So I have a question. When you're listening, how do you keep from boring yourself to sleep? That's what I do. When I listen to my own voice, I listen to it and follow and try to catch where I made mistakes. I can correct them, but I inevitably fall asleep.
Well, like doing the editing. Yeah, doing the reading is not bad, but when you start on the editing, then it's like, okay, you take frequent breaks, and so so that it's not you're not falling asleep there. And then sometimes, of course, you are up against deadlines to get it done, because when you sign the contract, you have a certain amount of time to get the first 15 minutes for approval, and then there's a deadline for the whole book to be done.
Now,
well, I found that it's better for me to stop when I knew I made a mistake, and just stop and redo it, rather than read all the way through and not stop. And then, what's your philosophy?
Well, on that, what I usually do, instead of stopping the recording, I just pause for a second, and then pick up where I mispronounced the word, or where you choked or coughed or something like that, and then I go back and edit later.
Yeah, and Susan, what you can do is, like, for example, on Audacity or any of the, and most of the tools, you can use markers. So when you make a mistake, you can just put a marker in and then go back and delete from that marker. That makes it easier to go find it later and not have to listen through everything. You can jump to markers pretty quickly.
Exactly. So, like, I would pause it and then I would actually just write down the time. And then, but then that makes it confusing if you write down the time. So I think markers are better because depending on where you go, the times are going to change. Right. So if you start editing from the front, then it messes up all of your times for the later ones if you edit.
Yeah.
Delete
it. Paul, recently you wrote a book, and it's in their own words, and this is the story of the people from the Northern California fires.
Yes, from the Santa Rosa area.
Santa Rosa area. You actually interviewed a lot of people with some interesting stories about what they went through. It's an interesting book, and it's you're really talking to people who just either lost everything or lost people. I mean, a lot of people died in that fire. Animals, a lot of death in the fire, a lot of destruction. What made you think of this? Because it's really an incredible idea that really puts you in the place of what people were going through.
Well, my wife was a travel nurse, and so we ended up in Santa Rosa because of the fires. And so, of course, me being retired and working on the audiobooks, I can do those in any hotel room. You can do it from the moon if you have Wi-Fi. But what happened was she was at the hospital, and a doctor was speaking to her and said, the news reports and stuff is not the way it happened. I wish that the people of Santa Rosa had a way to tell what really happened to them and tell it in their own words. And she came home and told me that, and I was like, okay.
That's interesting.
So what did happen?
What actually did happen?
Yeah, we're both asking the same thing.
90% of what you hear on the news is BS. So what did actually happen?
Yeah, well, that's why I just got on the internet and I said, okay, I'm going to just start asking people if they would like to send letters or emails, and just tell their story. A lot of them found it therapeutic. There was a lot of therapeutic writing that was classes that were going around, and and so a lot of them found it therapeutic to tell their story, and they were just thankful that they could let the people know, in the country know what happened in their own words.
So what did happen? You're evading.
Oh, you were
going to pin you down. I'm going to pin you down because this is cute. This is fascinating.
Well, it's like one of the stories in there about Robert Morgan. He lived at the Journey's End trailer park, which was directly across from my hotel where we stayed up there. It missed our hotel, but it took out the Sheraton, big time, right across the street. But anyway, he was an ex-firefighter, and when the fire was coming down the hill toward the trailer park, he asked one of the firemen to give him a hose so he could defend that trailer park, and he saved 20, 30 homes, just by doing that. One of the things with his story was that there was another man helping him, and that man heard a small dog barking, which he said there's no way you could have heard that. But they ran up the street a little bit, and they found a lady who was left in her home in a wheelchair. And she said, they left me. I don't know who they were or why they left her. Yeah. But she was watching the fire come down the hill, just expecting to die with her dog.
Oh.
That's one.
I have a really good friend who lived in Pengrove, and then also Petaluma. I just knew some people in Petaluma. Yep. Did it get to Pengrove or Petaluma area?
It didn't really reach down to Petaluma. Of course, the smoke and everything was heavy everywhere, but no, the fire didn't. It stayed pretty well contained to Santa Rosa, Healdsburg, and up that way.
Oh, is it the Healdsburg? Oh, wow. And Russian River.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that one. The Russian River?
Russian River.
Yeah. Russian River. Some of it, yeah. But mostly it went right down through the middle of Santa Rosa and took out homes. It's like they lost 20,000 population during that time. You know?
Yeah, it is amazing. Literally, whole cities just disappeared. Fortunately, they evacuated most people, but and they have some really stupid laws. Like, for example, you can't clear the brush out of certain areas for whatever environmental BS that they're using.
Wow.
And so as a result, you couldn't clear areas that burned. If you had cleared them, you wouldn't have had burn. And this is the stupidity of our state many times, because they use environmental laws to basically manipulate, control, and do other things which really don't make any sense. And they'll let people die just to protect, like a bug. And it just gets dumb sometimes. And I think they're realizing that the laws are just a little extreme, let's say a lot extreme sometimes. And it's a shame, because what people go through, and then you have another issue. They use the laws politically to get rid of people that they don't like. So if you destroy the whole Central Valley because of some supposed very teeny microscopic creature, some sort of smelt or whatever, that can possibly be damaged by a dam, then they've killed 7 billion in farming because of that. 7 billion, basically destroyed the Central Valley. And this is the kind of stupidity we deal with all the time. And by the way, it's not political or anything. This is just stupidity. It doesn't matter what party anybody is. It's what happens. And it's a shame, because that doesn't help anybody. And I'm sure you probably got comments about that when you were doing your research, and probably a lot of stuff came out. Like I said, I haven't read the whole book yet, just kind of glanced through it. I imagine there were quite a few comments like that.
Yeah, there was. Some people were just amazed at the electric company, how they could get away with what they got away with, and all this type of things. And it's just amazing, because these people were really suffering. And it's just amazing that they even opened up to allow me to publish it.
That's true. But PG&E, which was the electric company, they just filed bankruptcy not long ago, so they're in their own troubles. So it's sort of interesting. It's a great book. I mean, it's something that really kind of explains what people go through, the loss and everything else. It's scary enough. Now, we had the southern fires right at the same time. They were coming in through Ventura County. We had a lot of fires. We had one over our offices about maybe 2 miles away, 3 miles. We could see, and we're going, oh, this doesn't look good. Now, it's fairly civilized where we are in terms of less things that can burn. But still, it can cause damage. But the winds blew it towards the coast, which was probably good. There weren't that many people anywhere near the coast, so that was good. But then it blew towards some very rich areas on the other side of the hill, which never got hit before. And in Ventura County, we had places hit, again, that never got hit in hundreds of years, maybe. And it's amazing the amount of...
So those the ones that went to Ojai?
Yeah, Ojai and Ventura, South Ventura.
Yeah.
And, there are fire zones around there, but never to the point where they got into the cities and just destroyed city blocks. So that was... And one time we had to get our baggage ready just in case, because the fire we could see over the hills from where we live, but it deviated again from winds, and we just went, okay. You don't know. You just don't know sometimes. And when the winds go, anything can happen. And that was the problem. The winds were just blaring out here. They were just blowing like crazy. So,
well, they generate their own wind, I guess. And then the other thing, too, that's like the worst part is kind of like a tornado. Like, you may not be able to get out because
it's a vortex.
The fire has gone across the road. And it's like the road doesn't go where you need it to go.
No, it's pretty amazing. So definitely get this book if you want to learn more about it and get a feel for what went on.
Did you talk to any business owners? Did you have any? Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Did you have any conversations?
With business owners? I talked to a couple of people, like there at the hotel, and some of them were of the mind of, you shouldn't touch this. You weren't here. You were, that type of thing. And I was like, it wasn't that I was trying to you know, trying to make light of anything. I just wanted to give everyone a chance to tell the story,
Yeah.
you know, in their own words. I didn't edit any of the letters, you know, to make it, because that would have taken the guts out of it, you know, and all of the emotion that they experienced from it. So I wanted it to be sure that it was their words and their emotions, and it's, you know, all the people that have written stories, about a little over 25, and it's they've been thanking me all the time, said thank you for doing this and allowing me to do that.
It really is a good work, and like you said, it's a little bit of therapy for everybody who was able to get their message out. Now, I have to ask you a geek question, only because I guess I'm part geek.
Right.
What microphone do you like to record in when you do your books?
Well, I meant to write that down. Let me see what to say. Right now I have an Audio Technica, and it's one that's, you know, goes directly USB.
Okay.
But I was looking at. I meant to write that down to let you know, because I thought he's going to ask me that. And so,
because I know your brother likes the Shure SM7B, which is a great mic. And I was just curious. I go, let's see, are they different?
I have a Rode at home that I use whenever
and the roads are good. Yeah,
a place where I'm not on the road, you know.
Yeah, we've got about 20 mics in here, so we know we like mics. So when we say what's everybody using on mics, that's always fun. I'm on the Sennheiser 416 right now.
Sounds great.
The old and Sennheiser. This is a 50, not this one, but it's a 50-year-old mic design. It came out in the 60s.
Really?
It is still an amazing microphone. They still sell them today. One of the top-selling mics in the country still, probably the world.
Well, isn't it like the SM58 or something?
Oh, the SM58 is the Shure. It's a dynamic mic. I don't have it here with me. We have two of them in another room.
A lot of times.
And you know, for $99 or $89, it's an incredibly good mic. But you do need a preamplifier for it, because it needs a lot of power to get it going. So that's why a lot of singers like it.
Voice like you have, you know, you've got to have that real nice voice. The microphone won't help you, you know, unless you've got that voice like you have, you know.
No, it's all mics, totally mics. You know, if I turn the mic off, hey, you sound like this. It's just all mics.
Well, so I have a question about your book again. Okay, so if somebody gives you a little bit of flack about oh, you shouldn't have done that or whatever, I mean, it reminds me of the WPA projects in the 1930s, like from the devil, voices from the oil fields. I mean, and they're now in the library. They were Library of Congress. They're very important documentary, evidentiary things. That's testimony or oral history. I think it's great.
It is. And it's, because, I mean, you're going to have the history directly from the people that it happened to. And that was something that they wanted to kind of preserve that, you know, to say, hey, this is what happened to me. And I just gave them an outlet to be able to do that and to take it out, you know, to the country, you know.
Do you have this on Kindle? Valuable. Do you have it on Kindle too?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to pick up a copy. Yeah. I don't read books. I read Kindle.
Yeah.
My eyes aren't that good anymore, so Kindle is easier for me.
So how was I love this. So how was going back to the audiobooks? So I noticed that the ones that you mentioned were a couple of detective novels. What was it like to read? Did you get really caught up in the book itself?
Oh yes, you really do, because you know, a lot of times you're trying to be real technical. Like I would write down characters and sort of, you know, write down so I could remember how to do the voice, you know, to try to keep them kind of consistent as you could.
Oh, right.
But yeah, all of a sudden I'll be reading and I'll stop and go, wow, okay, that was good. You know, I mean, that was a good part right there. I just got finished reading, and I'm in the editing process of one called From Bullied to Black Belt by Simon Burrell. And I'm telling you, I got caught up in that. I was just like, okay, that was good, and he's a very good writer.
Now, on the books, when you get to read books, it sounds like you're doing all your own editing too.
Yes.
So there's
They
definitely
require
a
that
lot of
from the
work in doing
APA.
this. Yep.
There definitely is, especially if it's a book that goes longer than 3 hours, audio, completed audio, 3 hours. I mean, it can get to be quite a bit of work. The one I just pulled down for University Press, it's supposed to be 140,000 words, and it's supposed to end up being 15 hours completed
Wow.
audio.
That's a lot
That's
of
gonna be
audio.
more.
A lot of people, when you buy, like if you go to Audible, the books are somewhere from $14 up to 30, 40, 50, $60. They get expensive. Now, I personally love Audible. I just this week I bought 3 different Audible books, and it's interesting because now they're doing something where if you buy, let's say, a Kindle, you get the Audible book for like $2 extra. And that's a good deal for anybody who wants, and even better.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this is
yes.
even better. If let's say you start reading it on Kindle for whatever reason, and then you go, oh, let me close out. So let's say you read 2 chapters. When you go into Audible, that bookmark from Kindle is now in your Audible. It's amazing.
Oh, that's so cool.
It is
That's
so
good.
cool what they're doing with that. And it's really neat because you can literally go back and forth. If you have the time to listen, you can listen. If you don't, I remember commuting to work, and you probably get this from people, and you're listening to a book that's really interesting, and you get home and go, I don't want to give it up. So you drive around for another 20 minutes. That's the kind of stuff we used to do. Is that I want to keep listening, so I'll drive in circles, go somewhere, and come back. And then I go, good, I got to the end. That was worth it. It's just so funny because you just sometimes don't want to put these things down. And
Well, here's another thing, too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Paul, what did you say?
I said you get to one of those parts, and it's like you just got to hear it before you
got to hear it. Yeah, you want to finish that book. And it's just a lot of fun. And we are pretty much at the end of our time, but we'd probably love to have you come on again and talk a little bit more about
that'd be great.
the business and what you do and how you do, because we've only kind of touched the surface today. I'd love to get to know you more, and I think Susan would too. It'd be fun to talk about the experiences of somebody who's doing this professionally, and as people in the audience may be thinking, what do I do next, whether I'm retired or just starting out. It's a career. It is a career, and it sounds like you're having a lot of fun doing it, and like you said, you're not tied to one place. You can go almost anywhere to do this.
Yeah, it is one of those businesses that you can do from home, totally. Where that you're there and you can do it from home.
Yeah, that's
Speaking
cool.
of the audience, we actually have a viewer comment.
We have a comment?
Yeah, we have from Priest Morgan. He says,
Yes,
the winds at 3 a.m. at the journey's end were 81 miles per hour while I was fighting a home on the corner.
Oh, gosh.
Good grief.
Yeah, that's Robert Morgan.
That's
I was speaking
hurricane.
about. Hi, Robert.
Robert was a firefighter, I gather?
Yeah, and he was a former firefighter. He lived right there in the journey's end, and it was with the winds moving like that. They said they could not get in front of the fire. It just ran over them.
I know, it's amazing. And Robert, thank you for your service. If you're a retired firefighter or even an active one,
Robert.
Thank you, because you guys are amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what they do every day, man, it's just something, especially in Southern California. Most people don't realize how many fires we have here. And they just take off. And we did work with the fire department in Los Angeles and in training and stuff. And we trained some of them. It's just amazing the stuff they go through, and it's very good training, and it's dangerous.
Well, and also there's PTSD to deal with too.
There is,
especially I mean there has to be especially after the cumulative effect of seeing several of them, and then also witnessing terrible things.
I'll tell you, there's nothing more touching. This is after one of the fires a couple of years back, and one of the fire folks got killed in the fire, and we didn't know this. We were just on the freeway coming back, and we see a procession behind us. So we're actually leading a procession for a little bit. We got off before the procession ended. It went on for about another 150 miles. Every fire department that was available was on top of the freeway overpasses, all the men in uniform saluting as that person was taken from LA to San Diego. You see it and you start crying, man. It just you well up and just realize what they've gone through, and the amount of love and support, and for their families and everything. It was amazing seeing that, because we drove literally for about 10 miles in front of them, and we were watching.
Wow. And
then we realized what was going on. What an amazing tribute to the poor firefighter who died. But what they did for his family by doing that, man, you guys are awesome. It's amazing. It is really amazing to see that and to feel it, because if you're not touched by that, man, you're not from this planet. It's just to see that level of humanity. It's just great.
We have another comment from Robert Morgan.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm dealing with PTSD now."
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And he says,
take care, please. Take care.
And Robert, if you haven't tried this, if the PTSD treatment isn't working, look out for EMDR, eye motion desensitization reprocessing. It is the most powerful technique for helping people with PTSD. It works. They've used it on military veterans, firefighters, anybody, police, anybody who's been in the line of duty in one way or another. And it is an amazing treatment. I've known people personally who've gone through it. I've recommended it to quite a few people. And it works for almost any kind of PTSD, and it's quick. Literally 4 to 6 sessions, you're done. And it's been a godsend for many people. EMDR.
And another thing too, my son was in Afghanistan, and he lost some buddies. He's a Marine. He turned 21 in Afghanistan, and he didn't re-enlist. I was kind of glad as his mom, but he's definitely he's over it now. But being able to talk and feel pride for what you did and acknowledge it, even if you felt like you should have been done better or something, that you felt helpless. I mean, I just know that it's helped him a lot to talk to people.
Well, thank him for us for his service.
and
thank you.
Thank you for his service.
Robert said a few more things too.
Yeah.
He said, he said, "Finding that grandma in her wheelchair left to die in her home messed with my head. I'm in the Midwest getting PTSD counseling because time would not allow me to kick it." And he said, "I was one of 4 firefighters publicly credited with saving 44 homes, 1 grandma and 1 7-building Kaiser Hospital campus, doing EMDR now."
Oh, good. I hope it really helps you, Robert.
Yeah. And he said,
no one needs to go through that. So it's a good
working.
treatment.
That's good. And I think the key that I've heard, that the worst part is to deny it and think you can just muscle through it. So
some people can, but it's hard. It's hard. It just eats at you.
Well, another thing with Mr. Morgan was that I went to a city council meeting with him, and he introduced some ideas to where that they would be able to put stickers on some of the homes where the elderly are and the people that are in wheelchairs, so that are reflective, so that at night they would be able to see and be able to go and check on those people.
That's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea. Because some of these areas where Robert's from, they're a little dangerous with fires. You don't think it's going to happen, but then you have a wild, crazy fire, and it just goes out of control. We had really weird winds that year. And Robert, just get better, and keep the chin up, and you'll get better.
Yeah,
you will. And Paul, thank you so much for sharing the book and a little bit of your life with us. And you've been a mailman, so thank you for your service too. It gets kind of crazy out there too with mailmen. I've known mailmen personally, and they can get attacked and all sorts of fun stuff. So. It's not that easy to get this stuff out to people, but no, we appreciate that. And Paul, again, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you and the work you're doing. And man, as some, we probably have 2 audiobook lovers right here in this room with you, and keep it up. We love those audiobooks. They're great.
Well, thank you.
They are great. And again, Robert, hang in there, please. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, whatever. You can thumb down us if you want to. But subscribe, let us know what you think, and give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to get a hold of Paul, we'll have his information below in the show notes, so you can send him notes, or we'll also put his Amazon author page on there for, or not author page, but the books he's been in. I think we have a list of that. Or is that on your website?
It's whenever you go to the audiobooks by Paul, it takes you to Audible. And
Great.
It gives a list of all the ones that I've done.
Okay, cool. So we'll put that link on so that people can go and see what you've done and hopefully buy them. So, again, thanks, Paul, for coming on. Say hi to your brother Jeff next time you see him.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? I think he's watching now.
Oh, is he right there?
I believe so. Oh, he's not with me, but I think he's watching from where he is in West Virginia. So.
Hope you're feeling better, too. I know you had some back surgery, so I hope you're doing better.
Yeah.
And we will see you folks next week. Susan, as always, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
And we are back. That was good. I'm so glad Robert could come on and talk about